Hi, welcome to day 2 of the 6-day label reading challenge. So a little review from yesterday. If you didn't see day 1, you can go back and watch it. But we talked about the importance of looking at the ingredients first on a packaged food or beverage. The marketing can be deceiving. Sometimes it'll say, whole grain. And you might think, oh, great, that's 100% whole grain. If it doesn't say 100% whole grain, then it means it may have a little bit of whole grain in it, anywhere from 1% to maybe 49%. And it probably doesn't tell you how much. So we go to the fiber and find out if there's any fiber in the food. And if it's a plant food, it should always have some fiber. If it says 0 fiber, you know it's been taken out, refined out. And so that is not a good thing, because it can, if you don't get enough fiber in our diets, it affects our digestion, our blood sugar, the way we bind fats and other toxins and move them out of the body. All right, so as part of that review, I brought a couple of boxes here. They're both organic spaghetti. They're from Whole Foods. 365 Days is Whole Foods brand. One of them is just made from wheat flour. The other is whole wheat flour. So there's a difference. The wheat flour has had the fiber mostly removed. Let's see, this is the one that says organic spaghetti, organic durum wheat semolina. Okay, it's just a type of wheat. So if you look on the back at the ingredients, it says organic durum wheat semolina, not whole wheat, just wheat. And then we go up and we notice it has 2 grams of fiber per serving. So that's good. They left some of the fiber in. They didn't totally refine it out. So that's better than a lot of your white pastas. So when you're picking up a spaghetti product, a pasta product, look to see if it has any fiber left. And if you're trying to transition from whole grain, from refined grain, white grain to whole grain, you might do half and half in the beginning, mix it up so it's a little bit easier to get used to the flavor, and hopefully eventually you'll love it more, because it has more flavor. It's not just a pasty, white, starchy food. And then this other one says whole wheat spaghetti. So if you look on the back, it says organic durum whole wheat spaghetti instead of just wheat. Now, but I love the difference here. If you go to the fiber, it says 6 grams per serving. That's 3 times more than the white pasta, the non-whole wheat. So that in itself makes this a much better choice for your health. All right, so that's a review from yesterday. Ingredients, and those were simple ingredients. There weren't any extra ingredients added to these products. Today we're going to look at one of my one of my pet peeves. The fats. There's so many fats added to our diets, but then there's a lot of confusion. There's low fat, no fat, trans fat, healthy fats, we need fat, we don't need fat, saturated fat. People get so confused about this. So back to basics. Whatever naturally occurring fat is found in a whole, real food, for instance, walnuts, that can be considered a healthy fat. Nothing was added. It wasn't processed. It was just created in that food. So the ingredients, walnuts, that's it. No salt, no oil. You want to check for that, because nuts often contain some oils and fats, or oils and salt and sugars and things that causes one thing to eat too much, and then secondly becomes toxic to our health. So in this particular food, walnuts, we have 2 grams of dietary fiber in 1/4 of a cup. You look and see your servings, 1/4 a cup, 2 grams of fiber. So that's good. Now let's look at the trans fat. 0 grams. Okay, that's good. Trans means to change. Fat that's been changed or altered in nature, which would be unhealthy for us. We want those that are naturally occurring, that God put there when He created the food for us to eat. Now, if you look above that, it says saturated fat, 1.5 grams. Many people think, well, if it's saturated, it can't be healthy. But in this case, it's a naturally occurring saturated fat, and it can be healthy. Walnuts are a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, which we need for every cell in the body. Needs a good amount of omega-3 fatty acids, including the brain. So that's an example of good saturated fat, no trans fat, and very simple food in its natural state. Okay, my husband may not like this, but he makes me buy these Mission tortillas. Okay, he loves them, and that's okay. He can eat them, he can enjoy them. I don't eat them. It reminds him of home. I think his mother used to make tortillas, and they were good. They really were. But anyway, so let's look at this and see if we're deceived by the marketing first. This is one of my pet peeves. It says 0 grams of trans fat. So if you just look at that alone, you're thinking, yes, no trans fat, no, which usually means hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated. They've added hydrogen to it, so it'll stay in this nice this texture. They don't stick together. they're like these perfect, just pull it out and the texture is just perfect. And that trans fat helps that to happen. But this is 0 trans fat and no cholesterol. And other people might think, oh yeah, no cholesterol, that's good. This is a good product. And then of course they're super soft and all these other things that make you hungry for them. But remember, we're going to go to the back. First, we're going to look at the ingredients. First thing to notice is quite a few ingredients. It's more than the spaghetti. It's not just wheat flour, maybe some salt, but it has enriched bleached flour. Now, the first thing we learned yesterday, if it's enriched, that means they had to enrich in it with the vitamins, some of the vitamins that they took out of it, just enough to keep us from getting certain diseases. So then they put synthetic vitamins back in, not the same quality as what were naturally occurring in the wheat before they took them out, and so they've enriched it. So that's your first flag. It's bleached. Bleached is, we know what bleach is when we clean. It makes things whiter. So we got on this roll where we thought the whiter, the prettier, the more inviting. So they began to bleach the flour. And bleaching's done with certain substances that we could be eating residues of that product. And over time, that can accumulate. So we would like to avoid bleached products. The second, and then it lists the vitamins and minerals, and then it has some water. But then the thing to really pay attention to here is vegetable shortening. Shortening usually means hydrogenated. Intersterified. I was going to look that up. I forgot. I'm not even sure what intersterified means. But that and hydrogenated soybean oils. So first of all, we've got hydrogen, which is, it's been known to be a toxic, it's been studied and found to be a toxic fat. It's bad for our arteries. It can create inflammation in the body. We are what our cells are made of. This is the quality of what we are. So these fats cause inferior cells, and so we want to avoid them. And soybean oil most of the soy, up to 95% in this country, is genetically modified. And again, that means it could have toxic residues of weed killers when in the growing process. So you add that to the hydrogenation, the enriched, the bleaching. So far, this is not stacking up to be a very healthy product. And then if you go back up and look at the fiber, 0 grams. So we know that's not going to help bind these toxins and fats and get them out of the body. So you better make sure if you're having one of these, you eat lots of vegetables along with it. Generally, we put some fajita meat, or some kind of meat or eggs, and that's the protein, but it has no fiber. So we have a fiberless tortilla, and then we have fiberless protein. And if you don't add your veggies, you're gonna be fiberless. So then we go on down, and there's some sugar, there's some salt, and then there's a lot of preservatives that aren't really healthy for us, like, oh gosh, if I can pronounce it all. Well, there's the monoglycerides. Glyceride generally means a type of fat, which we don't need. Not good for our triglyceride levels. Then we've got a few other preservatives, which, again, if you don't know what they are, it's best not to eat them. So that is a good example of an unhealthy product based upon the ingredients and the nutritional content and the deception of the marketing that says 0 trans fats. So how can they say 0 trans fats when there actually are trans fats in this product? Because by law, the FDA says that if a product contains less than 0.5 or half a gram of trans fat per serving, then you can list it as 0 because it's a negligent amount. But it's still some. And if you eat 2 of these, well, now you're up to 1 gram. And if you eat these every day, you begin to accumulate. And it's, in the end, it's about the cumulative effect. People say, oh, in moderation. Yeah, sure. But what if you're eating not just this, but another food that has a negligent amount of trans fat? And it all begins to add up. And so we need to pay attention to those things. And sometimes we don't realize those little things are beginning to take a toll on our health. All right, so that would be looking for things like shortening, hydrogenated oils, butter substitutes. Cottonseed oil is generally genetically modified. Soy oil, corn oil, those are made from genetically modified plants. As a rule, canola oil is genetically modified. Peanut oil, peanuts often have an aflatoxin, which is something that has been shown to be carcinogenic, so you need to be careful of that. And just a bottle that says vegetable oils, and you need to look at the ingredients. What vegetables are we talking about? It could be a combination of soy or corn, canola. And even with the olive oil, which I generally recommend extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil and grapeseed oil are some of my go-tos, and coconut oil. You still need to look. Sometimes they'll take an olive oil and they'll cut it with a canola oil because it's cheaper and a lot of people like the flavor better. But again, we're talking about our health here. And sometimes some of the oils that may be okay, once they're heated past it's called their smoking point. And you'll know because if you heat an oil too long, it'll smoke. That changes the oil, becomes a trans fat. It changes its nature, and then it can become more toxic to us and cause inflammation in our bodies. And our country's becoming inflammation driven as far as all the many diseases that keep cropping up. So we want to watch that. I also I don't mind eating butter. The very best would be your grass-fed, pastured, organic, so the cows are eating their natural diet. They're getting the nutrients from the grass, and that feeds that creates a healthy milk, and butter is able to be made from that. And we get vitamin D. I especially get at least organic, so that I know the cows weren't treated with artificial hormones, antibiotics, because we don't want to get that from eating their products. But also, if you don't eat organic when it comes to animal products like butter, the cows that are not that are conventionally raised, they generally eat grain, and sometimes that's corn, and it could be genetically modified, but that isn't the diet they were created to eat, and they tend to get sicker, or they're not as healthy and thriving. So that's when they start giving them antibiotics and different hormones to fill in the gaps for what they're not getting from their diet. And that can happen to us too. We see the same thing when we don't eat our natural diet that promotes health. Then we start needing antibiotics and hormones maybe. But anyway, the point is, you want to watch your label for unhealthy fats. Go straight to the ingredients to see if it has those trans fats, because a half a gram is allowed, and they can still say there are 0 grams of trans fat in the product. Very important. If you avoid that one thing, trans fat, you'll be doing your health a lot of good. All right, so that's all for today. Go read your labels. Look in your pantry, look in your refrigerator, and practice. And if you still need a label reading guide, feel free to download it. If you don't see it in the group, you can go to www.learningtobehealthy.com, and there's a link there where you can download the free label readings guideline. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye.